Welcome to the Next Position podcast, where we talk about basketball topics and ask questions to each other.
We've got a special guest today, Peter Paraskeva, national championship winner. What else have we done?
I don't know. I just coach basketball.
He just coaches basketball, yeah. And we're going to ask him some questions, try and find out, because, pretty unknowable guy. So maybe we might know a little bit about him. So first thing, Pete, first question we have is, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you won 4 national championships in a row, your first 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So my question is, after you won those 4 national championships, do you think that other countries would headhunt that sort of success? And do you feel like our country does anything to sort of highlight any sort of success like that?
I don't really know how other countries operate. I think I'll be honest, I won national championships early, but most of them were at under 13, under 14 level. So I'm not saying it's high level to start off with. I was pretty blessed with having really talented players as well. Like, I inherited really talented players, and the club was already doing very well and successful. So it was easy to sort of just jump on the back of that and probably get success early. But yeah, I don't know how GB operates. I don't know how England operates. I don't know how they find coaches. From what I understand, it's more of an application process. I've never personally applied for any positions. I feel like I'm always in a situation where I think I'm never quite ready or never quite good enough to do that level. I think it's a big ask to lead a team to represent your country. So yeah, I've never really taken that step.
Yeah, but you don't think that probably nobody's ready, and maybe the people that are being the most successful at the time should maybe put themselves forward?
Yeah, I suppose it comes down to GB policy and how they recruit their coaches. I think if I was in a position like that, yeah, I'd be searching for people that gain success at the highest levels in that country or elsewhere and try and headhunt a little bit. But like I said, my national titles have all been junior level, except for one at D2 men, and again, Division 2 men in this country is not the highest level.
It's quite high.
So I do think it's.
I think it's quite high.
I think it is important to sort of like headhunt the coaches that are not always just with the top teams and the top clubs that are winning stuff, but they're also the ones that are getting the most out of people and teams that you wouldn't expect to be making a final four, winning a title, and they sort of come out of nowhere and do it. I think they're the ones that are probably doing the better job.
Yeah, but then how do we find them in the country? Like, there might be a guy that's probably like the best coach we've got, and he's coaching somewhere that's kind of a no-name. How do we find him? Do we push talented coaches forward? Because at the moment, it's kind of like, you're a coach, you're coaching your club, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, because I don't think there's any headhunting at all. There's very little coach development that goes on in this country. It's really everyone goes crazy when the NBA come round, and a few weeks back, and Nick Nurse did a clinic, because there's a massive turnout for that. So it shows that there's an appetite for coaches to be involved in stuff and network and all those sort of things. There's just not that many opportunities to do it in this country at the moment.
Well, yeah, that kind of follows on to one of my next questions, is like, what would be your advice for younger coaches that are coming through? Like, how did you develop as a coach? How did you get better? And how does someone in this country like actually start progressing as a coach? Like,
I suppose it depends on where you are in the country, doesn't it? Because I think when I first started, I was lucky enough to be able to attach myself to Joe Forber, Graham Williams, people that have been doing it for a number of years. So obviously, yeah, I think the advice would be attach yourself to a really high level coach. Not every coach is going to teach you everything you need to know. So work with as many people as you can and take all the best bits from everybody, I suppose, and try and mold what your philosophy is going to be like.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, obviously for players, there's a lot of like material out there to help them progress the game, like online and like other players helping? Do you find that the same in coaching? Like, do you find other coaches are helpful towards younger ones, or is there anywhere online that you know of, or is there any at all where coaches can go to like get help?
Yeah, I think there's a wealth of knowledge out there. I think the hardest thing is to make sure that it fits what you need at the level you're coaching. I think a lot of the time it's not as easy as just going onto YouTube or going onto another platform and getting, a new play that an NBA team's running or whatever else. And now it's like, right, yeah, that's what I'm doing with my 14s this year. Like, it doesn't work like that, I think. And it's the same with players as well. Like, you've got loads of skill stuff out there, but not all of it is going to be relevant to you. So I think a lot of it is to pick and choose what is, what isn't, and that process I think is the hardest process for players and for coaches, to know what is relevant and what's needed. I think the best coaches are the ones that are able to piece together bits and sort of mold it into something that fits your group.
Yeah. It's like, another question that I've got is, so like the professional league, like the NBA, do you think that has a negative effect on coaches sometimes?
It definitely will do. It depends on I think what happens is, I think from the way I understand it, is a lot of new concepts and things normally come from Europe first now, and then the NBA sort of pick them up later. But then what will happen is you'll see, and San Antonio with Greg Popovich was probably a prime example of this. He would always have new concepts, even something as simple as like, first, when I remember, I'm going back quite a while ago, but when in the NBA they first started icing pick and roll, San Antonio were the only team doing it originally in the NBA, and then over time they've got so many stats and analytics and things like that show that icing pick and roll is really effective. So now everybody starts to do it in the NBA, because if the stats say it's right, all NBA teams do it. The problem is you're dealing with the top 1 or 2% of talent in the entire world that are making those stats, and then what's happening is, even at grassroots level and junior basketball in Europe and wherever else, everyone's looking at that saying, oh, now you must all ice pick and roll from this point on the floor. Or you have to play this type of coverage on pick and roll defense. Oh, you're not allowed to take these types of shots because they're lower percentage. All of these types of things are true potentially in the NBA, but it doesn't mean they're true everywhere. I remember I was at the clinic in Manchester a few weeks ago, and Nick Nurse was talking about that mid-range pull-ups are the most inefficient shot in basketball. Yet Kawhi Leonard's allowed to take however many he wants. And his thing was like, well, Kawhi Leonard shoots 56, 57% from there. So when you work that out to his 3-point percentage, it's still actually a more efficient shot to take the mid-range for him. So even in the NBA, it's not one rule for everybody. It's rules for different people depending on skill sets. Why you would try and stop an under 14 kid shooting a mid-range pull-up when he shoots less than 5% from three at that time, it seems crazy to me. So it's being aware of who you're working with and what they need at that given time, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't like it either when it's like you put that restriction on a player, because I always think a player's going to be like, well, am I allowed to take this? Should I take this? And if he's got that in his mind, his percentage probably goes down.
Yeah, I think you want to try and make it so that early on when you're trying to work with players, they need to be thinking about a lot of different things and making loads of decisions. But as they get better at something, the idea is that they're not really thinking at all. They play naturally. If you're overthinking anything, you're never going to perform as well as you would do otherwise.
Yeah, we got another question. So recently you've transitioned to the girls' side of basketball, especially at the club. And is there any like concepts or any huge differences you see between the games that like maybe from your coach of the men's side is translated over or not translated?
I think most people always think that everyone told me that girls basketball and coaching girls was going to be different, especially the juniors. I've not really noticed that personally. I think everyone wants to learn basketball, and if you treat them in the same way, and I don't think I was a very shouty coach anyway on the boys' side, so I think it transitioned quite naturally. I don't know. I don't think there's anything in terms of how you coach them is different. Some of the concept stuff a little bit. Certain physical characteristics and things like that might be different. Like if I'm working with a player on certain pull-ups or certain footwork and stuff, the expectation of how high, say, one of the lads might jump compared to how high one of the girls might jump to be able to get off the same thing is you have to understand the expectations of that, I suppose. I do think in the girls' game as well, girls, in my opinion, from what I've noticed, and bear in mind I've only been coaching them for a year, I think girls are naturally unselfish. I think boys are naturally selfish. So the way you approach coaching that becomes different. Lads probably go too aggressive, too much for themselves, and you have to almost rein it back to make them play team. That's not saying they don't want to play team. It's just I think it's the natural instinct from boys, from coaching for 15 years or whatever it was, and the lads that I've coached coaching the girls last year too unselfish. I'm having to encourage them to be more selfish, attack the basket on catches, go themselves when it's their opportunity to go. They're more likely to share the ball way more. So that's one of the main differences I've noticed. But other than that, I don't think there's that many. The other thing as well, I suppose, is we've got, I think, because girls mature earlier. So in terms of sort of growth rates and things like that, I think girls fall into positions quicker than boys do. I think boys, very much like you could have a lad at 13 that's already 6'4", he might not grow again, but he might. So it's really important to develop his overall skill set. And that's not saying you're not going to do the same with the girls, but if someone was already 6'4", 6'5", she's probably going to be a big. So to not at least, yes, develop a whole skill set, but also give her back to the basket, make her understand how to play in pick and roll and things like that, finishing around the ring, I think becomes more of a focus. Because she's less likely to end up being a point guard, I suppose, later on. She's already the height at senior level to be able to play that position.
Well, moving on from that though, like with the girls, obviously girls basketball, there seems to be a lot of male-dominated coaches still on the girls' side. Do you think that has an effect on the girls' game at all? Do you feel like when you're a male coach with the girls, it's harder to get respect, or it's harder maybe to get them on your side, as maybe it's a bit easier with the lads?
I think the first thing is that there's not enough female coaches in the game at all levels in all countries. I feel like America are starting to change that trend. There's a lot of female coaches in the WNBA. There's a lot of female coaches in NCAA Division 1 now, as head coaches as well, not just as assistants or associates. So there is more and more females coaching now, which is amazing. But the fact that we've got, I don't know. I think girls go through different stresses and different issues and other things that they might not always feel as comfortable talking to a male coach about. So I'm very, very aware of those things. That's why I'm lucky to have female coaches in the program that I can lean on and they can support in that way. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose that's really a question for them, like how hard of transition they find it. But considering there's not that many female coaches coaching basketball in this country, most of the girls that I'm coaching at 17, 18, 19, some of them might have only ever had a male coach. Yeah. So they might have gone through that transition a long time ago. I don't know.
But when you were starting, was that in the back of your mind a little bit worried about, like, oh, am I going to be able to actually do this? Or
yeah, I think you do. Whenever you try and take on anything new, at the end of the day, it's basketball. But I think the amount of people that you speak to for advice, they all say it's going to be different. So you go into that situation a little bit apprehensive and worried about how you're going to come across, whether you feel like you're going to be able to get the best out of them or not. But yeah, over time, I think it's just in the relationships you build with people. It's not going to happen straight away. I think you get a new team, and especially at 18s level, you guys will know it as well, like the second years and the first years, and they've never really played together before, and how those two groups of people exist in the same team. That's a similar problem on boys or girls, and we're going through that process now. We've got no bad apples in the group at all, but trying to make people bond and build relationships, it's not something that's going to happen next week. It's something that happens over time, and you just have to stay consistent with those sort of things. And over time, same with a coach, like you'll get trust from your players over time if you stay consistent with them, I suppose.
What do you do if there is a bad apple?
It's the hardest thing to recognise who it is sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not always obvious. I do remember Joe Forber told me a story years ago about that he had a really, really talented team. He didn't know why they weren't performing like they should. When it came down to Final Fours or whatever, I think they fell short. And it was only after the season that he realised there was a couple of bad apples in that group that were just causing problems, weren't really on side, talking and acting against coach and that type of thing, not really for the team. And sometimes when you get that, it's not always obvious to the coach that that's happening. Sometimes it's blatantly obvious. Sometimes it's not. And we've all been, I think, in situations where you're coaching a team and it's just not clicking. And sometimes it's just not clicking because of something we're doing. But sometimes there's something happening in the group that's not allowing them to actually reach their full potential. So I don't think that's not really an answer, but I don't know how you find it. I think you've got to be aware. And I think sometimes it's like, are you looking for it or not? Like if you buy a new car, you've never seen that car before, and now all of a sudden you see that car everywhere because you're now actually aware of it. So I think you have to consciously go into the season thinking that these things could be a problem. So let's be aware of that they might be.
I got another question. So obviously players feel a lot of pressure to perform, but as a coach, do you feel like you have a lot of pressure to like know not everything, but like be able to have a solution to most problems? Because as a player, first thought when you don't know something is to go to your coach because they'll probably know. So do you ever feel any pressure there that like if you don't know something, like what do I do or anything like that?
No, not really. Maybe early on when I first started coaching, you just try and consume as much stuff as possible. I think for me, it's making sure that if you do know, because when players come to you for questions and ask questions, I think it's really, really important that they get the why. So I'm asking someone to do something, it's got to be reasonable, it's got to be well thought out, and there's got to be a reason why we're doing it. And if the player doesn't understand the reason why, I want to be able to give them that answer. If I can't give them that answer, then the worst thing to do is to shun them and push them away. I normally will say, I actually don't know. I'm going to find out and I'll get back to you. And then those are the types of things where it's like relationship building. Because if I go to a player and say, I'm going to get back to you, I need to get back to them. Because if I forget to do that, there's a million other things going on in a day and you forget to do that, they're not going to ask you again. So it's if you don't know something, go away, research it, ask people that maybe do, and then come back and give them the best answer you can give them. So they know that you at least kept to your word, I suppose.
Yeah, well, moving on from that one though, have you ever been in a game where you feel like the other team's doing something and you're not quite sure the solution to go to? Because I know I've had that loads of times, yeah. And like if you are there, did that make you like go away, religiously research it, try and make sure, because I'm not going to be in that situation again? You ever had a moment like that? Or?
Yeah, I think that's why you would need it's not always easy in sort of like amateur and junior basketball in this country to make sure there's enough coaches for everyone to have like an assistant or even two assistants.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of times where we're coaching on our own, which is not ideal. It's having somebody you trust that's on your bench that you can bounce ideas off. I think makes the biggest difference. I've been in loads of situations where I don't really know. People are doing crazy different presses and trapping presses and different zones and 3/4, half court, so all different things. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's always that. I know that if I sit down and research it, I'll be able to work it out.
Yeah.
The problem becomes in the moment, I don't know what to do. And obviously the team can lose faith in you in that moment. So I think sometimes it's good to be honest with the team that I'm not quite sure. Sometimes I throw it back on the team, like, what do you guys think? Because I'm lost here as well. And I think a lot of it comes down to as well that we have limited practice time. So I think sometimes in this country, a lot of people think that all these different zones and gimmick defenses and jump defenses and box and ones and triangle and twos, they all think, personally, I think they all think that they're being the smartest guy in the room. Yeah, not really. It's more to do with the fact that how many times have you worked on beating a triangle and two in your practice? Never. So of course it's going to be effective when a young team gets just a triangle and two gets thrown at you. Coach and players are all like in shock. Well, of course it works for a bit.
Yeah.
It's not that it was a smart tactic. It was the fact that we don't have enough time to practice. No one plays like this. Therefore, I'm too busy concerned with trying to get my players to play against and play man-to-man defense, and understand all the principles that come with that, because anyone that's going to try and get to the next level, whatever that level is, they're going to be required to play man-to-man. There's a reason why the top levels don't try all this junk, because the players are just better by then and more experienced and can shoot the ball better, because all the zones and all the junks, if you shoot really well, they don't work. There's always space. Just shoot them out of it.
It's always nice when you go zone and get the first two shots and then like, nah, let's go back to man.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back to man.
Yeah, so it's always nice to have a zone buster on your team that can just cash a couple of shots to get them out of it. But it's not always the case, and especially in this country, you're allowed to play zone as early as, well, under 16, so you're 10, 15, 14, 15 years old. These kids are not ready for jump and different zones and things like that. No player is in this country, and none of them have probably got the skill set to shoot at a really high rate. So yeah, of course it's going to work. So yeah, I get a bit frustrated with that sometimes, but I think you have to there's always a choice. Do I do way more work on beating different types of zones, or do I just stick with the principles that I know are actually going to serve the players later on down the line when they play at a different level, a higher level? And yeah, I always choose the latter.
Yeah, that makes sense. You got another question, Harley? Or?
Yeah, with the like, there's a lot of skill trainers in the country, and like other coaches that do like individual workouts and stuff. What are your thoughts on them and like their impact on like club and like team basketball? Because a lot of the time the players don't do it together; they'll do it separately, like with their own person. So, what do you think of them? And do you think they should work with the club, or like, are you fine with them staying like totally separate?
I think there's a lot of skill trainers now. Let's be honest. You can make a lot of money doing it as well. So there's a reason why these things pop up. Like, there's a lot of people that do this because it's lucrative as well. It's not. They might have great intentions. They want to support and develop basketball players and push them on. Yeah, that can be part of it. But they wouldn't do it if they weren't getting paid. So there's money involved. So they're doing it for that reason, as well as other people that are popping up all over the place now. It's a minefield for us as a club. It's also a minefield for players and parents to try and navigate all of that. Clubs only have so much they can give, right? Like at our club, we have 240, 250 players, boys and girls, across all age groups. It's impossible for the small staff that we have to be able to service all of that development and skill for everybody. It's just not possible. So what people do then is they go and look for it elsewhere, which is fine, that it's needed. We can't provide it, so you go look elsewhere. The problem is the skills that you're working on with the skills trainers, they might have no relevance to what we need you to perform in games for your actual team. The place where you actually play, the place where you're going to actually get your footage and you're going to contribute to a team environment. Oh yeah, great, you can do this many crossovers and these types of finishes and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, like, well, at what part within our offense do you do that? Is that something that your head coach wants you to be trying to do? The problem I've got is most people in this country, if they try to move to the next level, they try and move to America. That's it. 80-90% of people try and go there, right? If you go in there at any sort of decent level, at NCAA, Division 1, Division 2, these coaches would be completely against the stuff that skills trainers are teaching. I saw a video I think it was only a couple of days ago, where there's a skill trainer and there's a coach from an NCAA program saying, watching the video, reacting to it and saying, he's doing great work. I don't need my kids to be able to do this. I need them to be able to do this, this, and this. And a lot of those things are really basic. Understand how to space the floor, shoot off, catch and shoot, be able to play 90 odd feet up the floor on ball. Like, I need to be a great teammate. I need you to be this. And the values of an NCAA coach are completely different to what a skills trainer is focused on. So I do think that if they are going to work with players, connecting with clubs and head coaches would be really smart, because then if you really care about that player's development, then making it so that a coach and a skills trainer are collaborating to make sure that the stuff you're doing fits into what we need them to be able to do. And then that's easy for the player to navigate and the parent, rather than you thinking, oh, I did this last week with my skill trainer, I now need to try and put it into practice, and then coach is screaming at you for doing something crazy. So yeah, I don't think they're a bad thing. I think they're a good thing they exist. I just think the way that they collaborate with clubs is, from my experience, it's non-existent. So connecting the two.
I feel like there's like no checks on them now. So like, a kid goes there and he pays like 30, 40 quid an hour, which is crazy. And you could see that workout on YouTube.
True.
And I don't understand why kids pay for it. You could just come to a park, a gym, do that on your own. You don't really need it, do you?
I think a lot of people don't have the self-motivation now and the discipline to be able to do that. It sounds easy just to say it, but then I think when it actually comes down to it, that kid that thinks, can I really be bothered, walking or getting a bus or whatever I need to do, get on my bike to get to the park, it's in public, I'm trying skills that I'm not comfortable with, and I might look a bit of a prat, like, all those types of things might go through people's heads. I don't know. People like stuff. Why do people that are trying to get in shape or lose weight, why do they all have PTs? They all have personal trainers. They could quite easily do it on their own.
Yeah.
But they need somebody to be on them, breathing down the neck, directing them. It takes a lot of the anxiety, I think, out of trying to do it yourself. Because you're saying, well, there's no checks on them. There is no checks on them. So some of them are going to be pretty good and some of them might be awful. But I suppose that's why you have to collaborate. So then the club can help advise who we think are doing a good job for our players and which ones aren't.
Yeah, but then it's hard, like the bad one's not going to want to collaborate, is he? He's going to want to just keep doing bad and taking money.
Yeah.
But then, carried on from like money, obviously money's come into the student game now. I'm wondering what you think of like, that's popped up a lot of agencies, exposure accounts. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on them. Do you think they're very necessary, or do you think kids could still get to where they kind of want without this kind of popping up?
Again, there's going to be great people out there and then not so great people. Like I said before, like people do stuff because you can earn money off it. No one does these things for free. Like there's very few people. There might be somebody out there that's earned multi-millions and sat back saying, right, I don't really need to work a day again in my life. How do I give back? Well, I was a basketball player and I had this struggle and now I'm going to try and support somebody else going and doing that same thing that I struggled with. Different, but I'm guessing few and far between. Most people are trying to grow their own brand, it's their own exposure of their business or whatever agency or whatever they offer. They might have good intentions as well. Like you can have good intentions and still make money. That's allowed. But again, there's more of them now because of NIL in the States. They've come up because of that. These people didn't exist before. Why? You can even say, when did NIL come in and when did all these people start popping up? NIL comes in, 6 to 12 months later, all these people start popping up. So they're all after getting a cut of something later on down the line. My experience, they all say the same thing as well. They all say, there's no contract to sign, it's free for you, we really believe in you, we just want to support you. Some of these things may be true, but at the end of the day, they say, but then when it comes time to sign, don't forget about it. And then when you work with somebody as well, you have to be really, really careful, because if you allow that person to represent you in any way as an athlete, they can make a good case later on that they represented you. They might not have signed anything, but they could make a case. If there was an email back and forth, a WhatsApp message, they could say, they basically instructed me to X. They asked me to do this. Therefore, you're being represented. It might not be your agent, but you're being represented. And we've had that before where coaches and schools will come and say, is such and such representing you? And then the parent will have to say yes or no. And they might never signed anything, and they're not an official agent. You're not paying them any money. But if they're being represented, then yeah, they'll want a cut. Same thing with players in this country. Like we talk about players that have been with us for 4, 5, 6+ years, and then they just get off and move on somewhere else. And I think what people don't realize is it's not that we want payment for that, but there's got to be an appreciation and understanding of all the time, resources, energy that's been put into that individual to get them to where they've been. We've all been there at 7 o'clock workouts in the morning. We've all stayed till silly o'clock at night. We've all put extra stuff on. We've been there with them every step of the way when they're doing well and when they're not doing so well. We've cared about what they're doing in school and how they're doing. All of these things, if you were to actually put a price on it, it'd be thousands. If you were to make up a number, it'd be thousands. And I think and that's exactly what these agents and stuff are doing, I think. They're trying to say that we represented in some way, and they're looking for a cut. And if you work with 500 athletes, if only 1 or 2 of them signs a big money deal somewhere in America, and you get 10%, 20%, whatever you get, I don't know, then yeah, it was worth it, wasn't it? You got your money back. Now, the other 198 kids got nothing.
Oh, yeah. Lost money, though.
But well, they didn't lose money if they're not charging them anything. But it's a dangerous. It is dangerous, and NIL is a great thing. Like NIL was needed, in my opinion. Like these schools are making big money off their amateur basketball teams. The coaches in the top schools are making millions, and these kids are earning nothing. They're amateurs. They don't. Okay, they get looked after. If you're in a Division 1 program, you get flown everywhere. You get new gear and shoes every game. Like, you get looked after. Your scholarship pays for your food. You get spending money. You get all sorts of stuff being in one of these types of programs. But they weren't really earning anything else. So that by the end of it, if they didn't go pro, they've got nothing. Yet they've used their name. They've sold shirts. They've promoted them. They've marketed them, and they're not seeing a penny of it. So NIL is a great thing because it allows the player to actually. They are the brand in a sense. Top players in the States are a brand. The name means something. Their following on social media and stuff means something. I think it's a good thing that they receive some of that back rather than it going straight to coaches or staff or university. It's a good thing. The problem is the agents and the scouts are now byproducts of that. And then it's hard for us as a club and it's hard for players and parents to be able to navigate who's honest and who's not. But it's not going to change. It's going to keep going. So while the money's there to be done, it's going to be a thing that we have to keep trying to navigate.
Yeah. Well, going back to something you said there, where you're saying, like, players, they kind of, they're with you for like 6 years, and then they just like leave. Mm-hmm. I always think that they think it's your job, to be there. And for most coaches, it's not the job.
Yeah.
Like, they do it completely off their own back. But obviously, with you, coaching is your job.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that changes, because I get a lot of people, a lot of younger kids now coming to me saying, I want to coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they think it's going to be like some big job.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that sort of changed for you when it went from just sort of being like, oh, this is just something I do as more of a hobby, to actually my job, I get paid for this. And I'm wondering if you think it's an actual good career choice for someone.
In this country, I think the job opportunities are few and far between. I think the main money is through funding streams. Like, there's a reason why coaches in academies get paid. There's a funding stream for it. There's a reason why coaches at universities and pro teams get paid. There's a funding stream for it. I might be completely wrong, but I doubt there's many coaches that do under 16, under 14, under 12 basketball that are full-time paid coaches that only do those levels. I don't think there's many. There'll be few and far between.
It's more like overall the program. I look after the whole program.
Yeah, you'd have to do more than just coach, I think. Yeah, and even in the universities and stuff, there might be even a pro coach might coach the pro SLB team or whatever it's going to be called at any point.
Nobody cares.
Right? Yeah. So they might do that, but then that SLB might also be partnered with the university locally that they get some of their master's students through, or Americans come through, or whatever else. So they might also have to coach the Bucks team as well.
Yeah.
And so this is what it is in basketball in this country. You're always, yes, it's a full-time job. Like, my job isn't just to coach. My job is to look after the programs, be the head of the academy. Like, there's more parts that you have to do to make it a full-time role. I don't think there's many people that just get paid just like, I literally just turn up and coach and that's what I get paid for. They have more responsibility for the most part. So is it a good career path? Yes. Like, I'm glad I do it. I'm glad that I get an opportunity to do something that for me was just a hobby, and something I love doing. Do I think there's enough opportunities for the masses in this country of all these people that want to coach to find themselves in full-time paid roles? Probably not those opportunities available yet. But that's to deter someone from trying. Like, I used to give up 7 days a week for free most of the time to just get better at doing this, to serve the kids, serve the players. And then over time, I got fortunate enough to be offered a job. But that's not going to be the case for everyone. And, my life would be very, very different if Joe didn't offer me that job 17 years ago.
Yeah, 17. That's a long time ago. Jeez. But when he did offer you that job, did it change you coaching? Or did you think you were doing it the exact same?
I think really early on, I wasn't getting paid for coaching. I was looking after, cash and petty finance stuff and doing some of the accounting stuff for like community and National League and stuff.
What level for that?
No, I wasn't. I can count. Just. But yeah, I was just doing that sort of stuff, and it was almost like I was under no illusion that if I didn't coach, I probably wouldn't have a job. But at the end of the day, I wasn't actually technically paid for coaching. It probably wasn't until about 8 or 9 years ago that my job was now had coaching on my job description and in my contract,
Yeah.
which was part of the role. But again, part of the role. You're supposed to take on other responsibilities as well. Yeah.
Also, with you obviously coaching a while now, and it's changed not just from like a hobby and something you love to more like your job. I understand that might get a bit repetitive and like get a bit not boring, but like maybe a bit fed up because it's your job. Not many people love the job. How do you like keep it interesting and like obviously you're here a lot, like pretty much every day. So how do you like keep it enjoyable and interesting as a coach?
That's actually a good question. I don't know. I think the problem. I still love my job, and there's wobbles along the way. And the hardest thing I think as a coach is going through a season. And I don't want to sound big-headed, but going through a season that's really successful. The next season is always so hard because you've gone through all of that sort of like that energy and time and stress and all the rest of it with your group, and you've actually then achieved what you needed to achieve. Trying to then recycle and do it all over again, I think is the hardest thing to do. I find it easier when we don't achieve a national title, when we fall short, whatever fall short means. Because then I'm more motivated to go again. The ones that you win, I think is really, really hard. And sometimes you have great years with groups. And then if the next year doesn't always feel the same, it's always hard. But then you've got to realize again that, try and put it in perspective, you've got to understand that that group is now a new team, a new group of people, new relationships to build, new sort of opportunities to gain trust and build rapport. And again, like I said before, like it doesn't happen in a week. That happens over a period of time because we stay consistent and we keep going. And at some point, it's going to get better. But yeah, the ones that you win are always the hardest the following year. And again, like sometimes it gets stressful and repetitive and all the rest of it. It feels like you're just recycling the same things all the time. I always try and change things up a little bit, try and keep my brain a bit more engaged, try and keep the players, engaged in some way, especially players that you've coached multiple years. Like, we did it like this last year, but now I thought, right, we're going to do this now. So they're more engaged because they're learning something new rather than just doing the same thing all the time. Sometimes your team can dip doing that because they're so used to doing it the other way that they're actually better at doing it the other way. But I also want to keep their brains engaged, and I want them to come to practice thinking I'm learning something new, or we're progressing. I don't want it to feel like, here we are doing the same thing, doing the same drills. I've been doing this forever. Because then you lose them, and if you lose your team, then it's not enjoyable for me either. And then it makes it harder. But at the end of the day, like, I'd rather be doing this job than probably any other job. I'm sure there's people that struggle way more than I do when I have a wobble.
Yeah. So going to the last question. Last question will cover the next possession podcast. Yeah. So what's next for your coaching career?
You know what's crazy? I don't actually think that far ahead. I should. I should always think what's next. What am I thinking? Like, where do I want to be in 3 years, 5 years? I really don't think like that. I really try and focus on the moment all the time. I'm just trying to get the best out of the players I've currently got. And my experience, I have been fortunate, but if I really, really focus on what I've got in front of me, and I do the best I can with them. I've progressed slowly over time. I'm quite comfortable in the club that I'm at, trying to serve and support the players and the families that we've got. I don't really currently have any aspirations for going to coach pro or going anywhere else or going to new clubs or anything like that, which can get repetitive and mundane, but yeah, I'm quite comfortable just doing whatever I'm doing in the moment.
We're closing it, Harley.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And that's it. It was lovely having you, Pete. And,
Thanks, Harley.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.